इंस्पिरेशन कहाँ से है कि एक कंसल्टेशन फर्म मेरे को चालू करनी है. आई वांट टू एडवाइज मेनी स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स और एंटरप्रेन्योर्स जो कुछ बिल्ड कर रहे हैं और उनको एक बीच में ब्रेक थ्रू आ रहा है.
हमारी टीम्स ग्राउंड पे जाती है, दे आइडेंटिफाई दोस चैलेंजेस, प्रॉब्लम्स. ये दो लार्ज अम्ब्रेलाज हो गए, इनके नीचे फिर अलग अलग एरियाज में अलग अलग प्रॉब्लम्स होती है.
What were the steps which you took to scale up Gemba Concepts, and what was the main meaning that what Gemba is?
Gemba is a Japanese term. A lot of people ask me where I have studied or what's my education background, and my first reflex answer to that is Toyota.
So what's the role? Mainly कैसे signification करते हो? At the end you provide a seamless execution और वो company फिर skyrocket होती है.
Every organization, once they figure out their sales, the right product mix, the right market fit, the challenge comes in executing it. But अगर वो product बनेगा नहीं in the right time, in the right quality, at the right price, तो आप उसको execute कैसे?
Can you share a client success story which had a very great impact on you and your team?
Every client, right?
Yeah.
Very recently, we had our annual operating meet in Bangalore, and for the first time, we decided to create a wall of LORs, and I think there were about 15 or 18 LORs that were put up on those walls. It'll be very unfair if I were to choose one, but I can tell you, each time a client writes us an LOR, a letter of recommendation or a letter of appreciation, it's heartwarming, and I think it just doubles our blood.
So being, in the top 5% of the earners, right, and becoming a consultant, what are the initial grassroots steps which a to-be consultant needs to follow to become a consultant?
I don't know of any steps that are needed. You have to be motivated, super passionate, very, very focused, and if you carry these traits and if you enjoy solving problems. The key is, if you enjoy solving problems, then consulting is for you.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Noise. Mohit sir, how have you been?
Firstly, it's just Mohit.
Yeah.
And I'm doing so well. Thank you, Dhruvish. Thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
And it's a pleasure having you on that short notice, and you've been coming on our show. So let's kick off with the first question. If we go from the very basic level, consultants are like doctors, right? They know which problem is been occurring and they try to diagnose that and have a execution way for that.
True.
So being a consultant, what are the main problems which you guys are diagnosing?
See, Dhruvish, we've been very, very specific in terms of areas that we work with, right? हम लोग basically manufacturing and businesses के लिए doctors हैं, right? Any challenge to do with manufacturing businesses, enterprises is where we come in. Core focus is operations and supply chain within these enterprises, right? So anything to do with operations and supply chain, ये दो large umbrellas हो गए. इनके नीचे फिर अलग अलग एरियाज में अलग अलग प्रॉब्लम्स होती है. हमारी टीम्स ग्राउंड पे जाती है, दे आइडेंटिफाई दोज चैलेंजेस, प्रॉब्लम्स. अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स कस्टमर नोज कि यार मेरे को ये प्रॉब्लम है, एंड अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स द कस्टमर वांट्स अस टू आइडेंटिफाई where exactly the problem lies and what is it that we should do to kind of solve it. So depending on the scenario, depending on who we are dealing with, there's a very unique approach that we tailor, and basis those we then decide the next step. So when you go to the doctor speaks last, right? The first conversation, on the first person to speak is the patient, right? And that's the same, it applies for us also. The client basically gives us an entire debrief, challenges, numbers. For us, like for a doctor, it's your reports or it's your health checkup document which throws or gives indicators. For us, there are data points, there are shop floor visits that we do to understand what are the areas or what should be the strategy to basically help that improve. And basis that, we customize it. So it's very, very tailor-made approach that we have. And then basis that, the teams go on the ground. And of course, thanks to our large team and the variety we carry in terms of capability and strength and skill set, we can cover quite a large area, if you ask me.
So on the initial scale, people now are having more knowledge about consultation. If we go on the previous stats, in 2010, there were not that many big consultation firms in India or all over the world, right? So what spark came in your life कि वो inspiration कहाँ से आई कि एक consultation firm मेरे को चालू करनी है? I want to advise many startup founders और entrepreneurs जो कुछ build कर रहे हैं और उनको एक बीच में breakthrough आ रहा है. So what was the inspiration for starting Gemba Concepts basically?
It's a very, very funny thing.
Okay.
And I think most चीज़ें जो होती है उनके पीछे कोई thought नहीं होता है. And that's the same for us at Gemba Concepts also. I don't think we knew we were starting this. But since you asked, and this is something very personal, probably only my closest of colleagues may know, I finished engineering back in 2010, right? And like every other engineer, very, very overconfident, very, very indisciplined, always thought that I will find a job very easily, I will have no challenges in life. And then reality hits you when you really get on the ground. So back when I finished my engineering and while I was looking for jobs, there was this uncle, or there is this uncle who told me that, why don't you apply for a company called Posh Consulting?
Okay.
Posh is the car company that we all know about. Very few people know that they also have a consulting wing called Posh Consulting. Right? So he said, तेरे को उसके लिए apply करना चाहिए, probably कुछ हो जाएगा. So back then, when you don't have a job, you basically send your application to anybody and everybody. And I did send it to them also. And they were very, very prompt in responding. In fact, I had emailed them. They sent me back a physical letter where they said, look, we're so proud of you or glad that you've applied with us, but then your skill sets don't meet our expectations of a consultant. And hence, we will not be able to kind of take you on board.
Okay.
So I think that was a very, very small incident which had a very, very lasting impact, because that letter is something that I still carry back at my residence. And then, of course, ended up at Toyota by chance, by mistake. Was not a great engineer, so never knew why I ended up there. But then, the core to starting Gemba Concepts started because I would play tennis back in those days in the evenings post my job at Toyota. And I had a I wouldn't even say a friend, a mentor, somebody very senior. We call him, or I call him RK, Ramesha. And, he would play tennis with me over weekends. And he would ask me, "Tu karta kya hai Toyota mein? What is it that you do?" And I would tell him that, I'm basically asked to visit various vendors who manufacture for Toyota. Somebody who would manufacture the wheels, somebody who would manufacture, let's say, the music system. And then I would basically, my job is to advise them to do it better, reduce costs, so on and so forth. Basically help them improve their business. So he said, why don't you actually come over to my office? I run a textile business, and help me or show me what you can do for us. And then we'll start from there, right? So I said, fair. Started working with him on Saturdays. He realized that there was some value addition that we were able to do, or I was able to do, which is when he said that, look, while I'm a largely trading firm and I understand you can add some value, I think the true potential of what you're doing will only be seen if you work with a manufacturing setup.
Correct.
So he set me up with a very dear friend of his called Sarbjit Ghosh, who then ran a company called Laguna Clothing Private Limited, which is probably the world's top 10 shirting giant in the country. Right. So, and I should make a mention that we lost Mr. Ghosh recently, and very, very unfortunate. He'd been very pivotal. So when I met him, I remember we were 25. I was 25 and I met him, and he said, "Hey, to ek kaam kar, work for me at Saturday, Sundays beyond your Toyota days, which is from Monday to Friday. And if I see value, then we'll talk." So he invited us. In fact, very funnily, and I always tell this to a lot of my friends, my salary back then was about 40,000 rupees a month. And the gentleman offered me 10,000 rupees a day for this consulting on weekends. Wow. So that would be 80,000 rupees I would earn from him and 40,000 from my regular salary. Who wouldn't like it, right?
Of course.
So took it up, started working with him, spent about 3 months doing so over weekends. And he called me on a particular day and he said, "Hey, Dick, I have no doubt you can add value. I see tremendous opportunity for me as a business if you're able to do the right things. But this weekend wala setup kaam nahi karega. So you have to quit, put your papers, have the heart, and I'll give you a 6-month assurity ke 6 mahine mein tere ko fire nahi karunga.
Okay.
I'll pay you for those 6 months, but you have to come full time, no part-time business." This is when it struck me saying, boss, there's somebody who's given us an opportunity to learn, to see, to explore. He's now telling you that, look, there's value, but you'll have to come full time. So went back, had some colleagues back in my Toyota days who were very close friends. Abhishek happened to be one of them. Chit-chatted with him, told him that, boss, see, lifetime make or break hai. 25 saal ke ho gaye. This is the time if we really want to step out. I think he was as mad as I was. So he said, let's do it. And I think that's where it all started. So I don't know, was it Posh Consulting? Was it Toyota? Was it RK? Was it tennis? Because, had I not played tennis, I wouldn't have met RK. But all these things just fell in place, and I think this got stitched together as we call it today, Gemba Concepts.
So, on the initial phase, you and RK hold your hands together and started a consultancy firm. So, on the very basic level, right, when you were on a very clear slate segment, then what were the steps which you took to scale up Gemba Concepts, and what was the main meaning that what Gemba is, right?
Very interesting. I think a lot of people ask me this even today. Gemba is a Japanese term.
Okay.
A lot of people ask me where I've studied or what's my education background. And my first reflex answer to that is Toyota. I studied at Toyota, right? So there's a lot of gratitude I carry in what those years back at Toyota meant, the people I worked with. And as a tribute, we realized that Toyota always taught us you have to be on the shop floor, be on the ground, be on ground zero to basically be successful. And Gemba in Japanese means being on the shop floor. So we said, if we were to succeed and replicate that mantra, then the golden thing that we have to replicate is being on the shop floor. And hence it's called Gemba Concepts. But I think back then, I think we were very, very naive. All we knew was there was one man who had trusted us with our capabilities. We have to deliver value to him, right? Mr. Ghosh, like I mentioned.
Yes.
So I think first 6-8 months, Abhishek and I would wake up at 6, get into the car at 6:45. It was a 2-hour drive each way. We would reach the factory at 8:45 and be on the floor, work on the ground, learn the tricks ourselves. It was a new thing for us back then. We'd come from a very, very organized sector, which is the automotive sector, and then move towards a garmenting sector, which is extremely, for lack of words,
different domains.
People who've not had that sort of exposure, massively women-oriented, very, very rural approach. So there was a lot of learning, but I think our experience out of Toyota always told us that so far as you're connected with the ground, you connect with the people on the ground, the grassroots, you will learn, you will find a way out. And I think that was all our game plan. With this, of course, as we spend those hours on the ground, we would leave at 5:45 in the evening, reach back home at about 7:30, 7:45. And then that would be our day, right? As we spent time, we realized our circles around started talking about what we were doing. There were more kind people who gave us opportunities. I think from our perspective, the only thing we did right was did justice to whoever decided to work with us. And I think that's the secret sauce of what we were back then, what we are today. The idea is very, very clear. You deliver value to the customer and the growth will happen, right? And that's what it is.
So there's a famous saying by Steve Jobs, right? He told that you need a mentor to win at your life, right?
Absolutely.
As you told that Mr. Ghosh was that mentor which helped you to create Gemba Concepts, and it's currently at this level, right? And if we go with different startups or different entrepreneurs, when you start a product-based company or a service-based company, there are many difficulties. If we go more with the product-based companies, when you want to sell, there are 3 different things in which you also have to take care. आपको mainly वो पता चलना चाहिए कि मेरी product में problem है, मेरे marketing में problem है, या मेरे sales force में problem है, जिससे I'm not able to get good sort of an revenue for my company. That's the place where consultants comes into the play, right? आपको mainly वही research करना पड़ता है that when you are having a very good product, but it's not that up to mark, then you need a consultant who can signify between the problems के mainly differentiation factor कहाँ पे आ रहा है. So what's the role? Mainly, what's your bread and butter into that? आप कैसे signification करते हो? And at the end, you provide a seamless execution और वो company फिर skyrocket होती है.
See, I think हमारा focus बहुत clear रहा है, like I mentioned, on operations and supply chain. Sales and marketing is not something that we're very, very detailed or experts with. But every organization, once they figure out their sales, the right product mix, the right market fit, the challenge comes in executing it. Right? Like you said, कि यार product ठीक है, market मिल गया, प्राइस पॉइंट बैठ गया, बेच पा रहे हैं, बट अगर वो प्रोडक्ट बनेगा नहीं इन द राइट टाइम, इन द राइट क्वालिटी, एट द राइट प्राइस, तो आप उसको एग्जीक्यूट कैसे करोगे? सो आर कोर कॉम्पिटेंसी कम्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ getting your operations in place, ensuring that you're able to make that product at the right time, at the right price, and deliver it at the right timeline so that your customers get it. And of course, that basically propels or fuels more growth to happen. So that's our core forte, and we've been very, very focused. We don't work beyond this. There are a lot of other consultants way more capable than us in other domains when we talk about marketing, when we talk about sales. But in terms of operations and supply chain today, I can very, very proudly tell you that we're one of the best in the market available. And we've done this now repeatedly with various industries, various sizes of industries, across sectors, across geographies. And yes, the results are what we are very proud of.
Certainly. In the world of many more dominated consultancy firms like Deloitte, Accenture, and many various things. And secondly, also working worldwide. You're not only in India, you're working in Africa, Europe,
In
and
UAE,
many more,
yes.
UAE, and many more places, right? So in the world of dominated firms, like I told Deloitte, Accenture, what is the thing that Gemba is positioning itself in between them? Because see, market gap तो सबने ढूंढ लिया है, बट वो मार्केट गैप में आपको एनरोल भी होना है, धंधा भी बनाना है, और एक अच्छा रेवेन्यू भी बिल्डअप करना है, राइट? एंड यू आर नॉट इन इंडिया, यू आर इन वर्ल्ड वाइड. और लोगों के पास दो भी अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि मैं डिलॉयट के पास भी जा सकता हूँ और मैं गेम्बा कंसेप्ट्स के पास भी जा सकता हूँ, राइट? सो व्हाट्स दैट सॉल्ट एंड पेपर मोमेंट यू थॉट कि नहीं, कंपटीशन हो तो हो, बट आई वांट टू क्रिएट समथिंग ग्राउंड ब्रेकिंग इन द मार्केट वेयर you are currently, on a worldwide place.
A lot of people always ask me or ask a lot of our
Yeah.
team members कि competition कौन है आपका? Or at least I wouldn't speak for the others, but I'll tell you what my answer is. I've always believed that we have no competition, or we don't look at competition. We don't consider the big fours, the other consulting firms at competition, because our approach has always been put your head down, get the things right, do your work right, and word of mouth will spread. People will appreciate what you do. And that's what's happened, right? Our growth has not been branding, not because we marketed ourselves. In fact, I think 12 months prior to what we're sitting on today, we had zero marketing or branding budgets.
Yeah.
It's only now with the teams coming in place, we're actually starting to brand ourselves. But before that, our work spoke for itself, right? There's no other salt, pepper, or any other secret sauce which has done wonders to us than our work, our hard work, our dedicated team, our people. That's the motivation which has made sure that we stand against the big names and deliver value better. And I always believe that if you're able to deliver better value, people will recognize it. There is no second thought on it. And I think that's about it. So आप अगर हम मेरे को अभी भी पूछोगे, are these your competitions? You mentioned Deloitte, Accenture. And let me tell you, I know quite a few people in these organizations. They chit-chat with me. We talk to them, we seek advices, they seek advices, and I think it's a very, very friendly environment. Of course, we fight it out in the market. We do. They win some, we win some, but also India is such a large market. धंधा नहीं होगा ऐसा कभी मोमेंट नहीं आएगा हमारे लिए.
Correct. So, there's a thought by James Clear, who wrote a famous book known as Atomic Habits. As you told, that there's no such big marketing than a word of mouth.
Absolutely.
When you speak from mouth that, Gemba is doing something exceptional, then wo banda bhi aapke paas aayega and he'll have a business with you.
Absolutely.
So on the initial phase, what were that high impact projects which you took, you helped the client, and now due to that projects, you are on a certain good level?
See, I'll tell you, one ideology that we always believed was, come project karo, do less, but work with the best.
Focus on quality more than quantity.
Focus on quality and work with the best in the market. Don't
Correct.
try and work with mid-size organizations. Work with market leaders. So, for example, Laguna, right? Let me tell you, if you ask somebody from the apparel industry about Laguna, you will know it's a dream role for anybody, right?
Just let's explain what Laguna is for the audience who are watching us.
Laguna makes formal shirts for the who's who of the world.
Okay.
Right? The Hugo Boss, the Ted Baker, so on and so forth.
Wow.
Upwards of 25,000-30,000 rupee INR market value. So we started with them, and I think that also embedded a very interesting fact that work with the best.
Correct.
The minute you work with the best and you're able to deliver value, then there is very, very clear acceptance below. So if you see our clientele in across sectors that we work, I can tell you very, very proudly that from top 5, there'll be somebody who's working with us. And let me name a few. We work with Laguna. In the textiling business, we work with Arvind Limited, one of the world's largest denim giant. On the, let's say, consumer side, we work with Safari Industries, one of the largest suitcase and luggage manufacturing companies. We work with various other PE funds on various projects. So I think the idea has been work with the best, demonstrate value for the best. If you're able to do that, everybody else in that sector, in that market fit will accept you, appreciate you. And that's again something that's worked well for us.
That's the ground rule, I guess, right?
I've always believed that today sitting here, these could be defined as rules. But back then, I think we were just at the right place at the right time, and God's been kind, nothing beyond.
So at that moment, we feel that trial and error se ho raha hai, right? But at the end, you don't know that how the execution has taken place.
It's good to reflect. You call it what you want today. Back then, we knew you to do the hard work. Like I said, there's no substitute to delivering value to the customer. And we did that back then, we do it today, and we will continue doing so if we want to exist. Because whichever day, right, no matter how big a brand you are, no matter how old you are in this business, the day you stop delivering value, you're finished. That's the end of that business, right? So I think each day when we wake up, it's all about delivering value consistently.
So can you share a client success story which had a very great impact on you and your team? That's the reason you are feeling motivated to go beyond something.
I think every client, right?
Yeah.
Very recently, we had our annual operating meet in Bangalore. And for the first time, we decided to create a wall of LORs, letter of recommendations, right? And I think there were about 15 or 18 LORs that were put up on those walls. It'll be very unfair if I were to choose one, but I can tell you each time a client writes us an LOR, a letter of recommendation or a letter of appreciation, it's heartwarming. And I think it just doubles our blood. And again, probably speaking for myself, it just doubles my blood, right? It gives me that kick. It gives me that thrill. It gives me that confidence that, yes, we continue to create value.
Wow.
So I think each project is unique. Each project has its own challenges. Every client is important. If you were ever to ask me who's our best client, I don't know. I don't think there's one who's best. Everybody is best. But yes, I think early days, Laguna constantly comes back to our mind because it was not easy. It was our first times on the ground outside of an auto industry, outside a big umbrella like Toyota. And it did well for us. So we definitely gave some value creation. And I remember back in those days, because of the work we would do, and they would have a lot of customers who would visit them. Bestseller was a customer that they had who then kind of requested Mr. Ghosh to travel to China and give a presentation on what you did well in the forum of Lean and how have you improvised. And we kind of made those presentations for Mr. Ghosh. So we know it was respected, appreciated, and also spoken about.
So that's something that, you can also learn from, and you feel कि मैंने ये किया है previously. I'm getting that sort of motivation in my blood कि नहीं, I want to do better than that.
Oh, absolutely. You have to keep challenging yourself. There's each day has to be better. Each year has to be better. We may not be the classic startups in terms of growth. Somebody could say in 11 years, you've barely done something, which is true. And I've always envied people who've done remarkable growth, big organizations. But for us, there were very clear expectations, rules set on the ground, and we've just lived by it, and at the end of the day, like I said, we don't look at competition. We don't look at what somebody else has achieved. For us, we're just happy if we've done our work well and, people are happy.
That's something that, it feels motivated for the listeners also who are listening to us कि इतना सब कर तो दिया है. But on the back end story, it's not that easy, right? So if we take consultation as that, if you want to be a consultant, it's not everyone's cup of tea, honestly. Because, on the stats, consultants are the top 5 earners all around the world. right?
Right.
And being in that top 5% list, it's very tough to sustain. It's tough. It's easy to go in the top 5%, right? But it's tough to sustain the top 5%.
Uh, okay, so I should start with saying this.
Yeah.
I don't know if we are in the top 5 in terms of our earnings. Never looked at it, very frankly. But you're right. It's very, very demanding, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. You need a lot of passion. It has to be fueled by that passion, this sort of energy. And I'll tell you, right, we started back with 2. Today we are a 185 member team. Each one of these 185 surprisingly carries that passion, and hence we are able to deliver such a large impact across the country, across geographies, with having, like I always mention, and I was talking about this in our AOP, just something that concluded recently. We have a team which is stationed in a country called Mali, Mali. Most people won't know where this country lies.
Yeah.
It's an West African country, right? And it's one of the poorer countries, not very well or not doing very well for itself economically. But we have a client who's an Indian from there, and he decided, hey, why don't you come over and work with us? And I know I have a team there for the last 12 months, against all odds, against all challenges, against, being 15 hours from their homeland with barely one flight every day to fly back in urgencies. There are teams which are delivering value, are fighting a battle constantly, and making sure we create value for clients, right? So I think that's the definition of passion which fuels this. And then rest, everything follows. You're in the top 5, top 20. I don't know. You've been telling us all of this. I've never heard of it.
So that are all research terms, honestly, right?
I'm sure.
So let this podcast be also useful for the someone or to-be consultant who is watching us, right? So being, in the top 5% of the earners, right? And becoming a consultant, what are the initial grassroots steps which a to-be consultant needs to follow to become a consultant?
I don't know of any steps that are needed. You have to be motivated, super passionate, very, very focused. And if you carry these traits and if you enjoy solving problems, the key is if you enjoy solving problems, then consulting is for you. The rest, you should just talk to Arya Parvati. She heads HR for us. Use that.
So consultancy is known for its demanding nature, right? And you have to work like hell, to be honest. So how do consultants manage their work-life balance? I mean, what's your work-life routine or work-life balance?
What's the procedure to skip a question? No, I think, frankly, at least I don't manage my work life very well. You should manage, that's the right thing, but it would be unfair if I were to answer that. It's been a cautious effort to manage better, to give enough time to family, to give enough time to friends, to give enough time to yourselves as well. It's important. We all appreciate it, understand it, but somehow I've not personally been able to do that, and that's factual. I also understand why it takes time and effort in terms of what we've done over the span of last 11 years. But yes, cautiously, the teams now understand that it's important to have a right balance. We are now taking in a lot of steps to kind of improve work-life balance back at our organization as well. But very unfair if I were to answer, so we should pass the question.
Okay, and if we go with your daily routine, right, then can you please tell up your daily routine what's your workflow?
So I think it's quite bad, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
Phone decides most of our times,
Okay.
what's happening. So you're up, we work with multiple time zones. So for example, India shuts at 6-7 p.m. India time. Dubai is working 90 minutes beyond that.
Correct.
You have Kenya, which is working another 90 minutes beyond Dubai. And then you have Mali, which is working another 4 hours from Kenya time. So our last team member must be sleeping at about 1:32 in the night, India time, right? So by the time he or she goes to sleep, there's enough data or questions or emails that are pushed out to us, to all the senior guys in the team. And by the time we wake up, we already have enough on our plate. So It starts with the phone, it ends with the phone, very, very frankly, and not very proud of it. But yes, that's what it is. Consulting involves a lot of traveling, right? So I don't think any one of us, forget me, any one of us have a set routine or a day which we
Correct.
replicate at all. Most times we are seeing a new airport every single day or every alternate day. Consulting is also for somebody who enjoys doing or traveling, enjoys being in the fast-paced world, right? So far as we enjoy it, I think it keeps our day going. End of the day, the attempt is to spend whatever little or extra time I get with my family, try and spend as much time with my son. But like I said, I've not done justice so far and should change this around very quickly.
I hope your family members are also watching this. That,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
I've been told to say this.
yeah. So, my next question, which was being in my head, which I was framing, was that how much do consultants travel in a month, right? And you told that, I am getting an opportunity to see different airports all over the world. That's something phenomenal. When it goes, okay, ek mahine, 2 mahine, I've just initially started, it feels exciting that, I'm having that fancy backpack and I'm traveling to different airports. But you go beyond that time, it's not that, exciting. So what's that? Ki aapko kitna travel karna padta in a month?
I'll give you a very interesting stat that I try and monitor for myself. I've now been doing this for 11 years.
Okay.
Last financial year, which closed a few days back,
Okay.
was 160 flights in that year alone. It's a lot of travel. A lot of our teams travel perpetually, live out of their suitcases, hotel rooms. But like I said, and that's why consulting is not for everybody, right? You really have to be passionate. You should be able to manage. You should be able to enjoy this, right? You ask me, and a lot of people ask me this, that thakta nahi hai yaar, kitni baar airport jayega? Why do you do this? You ask me, I'm happiest to take a flight out or a flight in, or I don't get tired of taking flights. Maybe it's not about me enjoying flights. It's the larger picture or the larger vision of creating something, creating a consulting firm. In fact, what's also important to ask is all the big names that you were mentioning, right, are all legacy businesses, have been around for decades and decades, right? How many times have there been organizations or companies which have now built a viable, scalable business in consulting? And if you really ask me, there have been none, right? So the idea is to challenge that none and say, hey, you can also build a consulting business, young, fresh, and go the global way and bring an impact to clients and real businesses and enterprises. And I think everything else is overshadowed by this goal that we've set out. And yeah, I don't think this is going to die out anytime soon.
So you need that kick in your mind, right? That it's not the way that I'm focusing more on travel. I'm focusing more that how can I break up or broad up my spectrum of vision? How can I connect with more people for my business? And that's the main bread and butter of that thing.
I think, like I said, if you're following your passion, I was recently talking to a customer and he said, yeah, Mohit, I don't recall when last I've taken a holiday with my family in absolute terms, but it's not that I feel bad about it because we're just building something which was otherwise never going to happen. So, see, I've always believed that kuch paane ke liye kuch khona padega.
Correct.
You would, or anybody would be very lucky if कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ नहीं खोया उसने या जिसने भी
वो होता ही नहीं. That's on something.
Yeah, at least हमारे साथ तो नहीं हुआ है तो
किसी के साथ नहीं होता.
Yeah, so then that's your answer, right?
Yeah.
That there's always a give and a take, and something suffer, but yeah, that's called collateral damage for the larger good.
And the main thing is that you need a very good leader who is leading a team, right? When anyone asks that, how are you building this? Many of the people tell that I'm having a team of 10 who is working under me. But what I am telling is that I'm having a team of 10 who is working with me, right? So the attitude and the way how you are executing things is the main, which is on a most, significant level, you need a leader who is not that on an upper level, who is grounded, which Gemba signifies, right? It is that you have to be grounded. So how do you handle that all things?
Oh no, so let me tell you very interesting statistics.
Yeah,
In the team of whatever that we have, let's say 200 people,
correct.
I think 3 people work with me as my team. Everybody else reports to somebody else, which is why I've been blessed not to worry about leadership myself. But what also this means is that we are blessed to have some of the best leaders, and in fact, I wouldn't even call them leaders. I think these guys are like family, right? And there is this whole undercurrent that people know, if let's say there is an ex, they know that whatever he or she is saying is for our good, is leading as an example, working with us, not above us. So I think we've been very blessed with the team that we have. We've always believed in growing people from ground zero. So most of our senior team members, or pretty much all of our senior team members, have grown within the organization. We've never tried to bring leadership roles from outside. And I think that's kind of resizing yourselves like a family, right? That when you see somebody grow from within the ranks, you automatically have more acceptance, and vice versa, of course, that, you know, people start kind of listening to you. They've seen you grow, put that effort, and kind of respect you, benchmark you. So I think we've been very lucky with this part. Otherwise, to have such a large team and trying to run it is not a joke. It's not easy, in fact. And I can tell you, if I don't answer my phone, at least on the leadership side, for a couple of hours or days, there would be zero impact, because each one of us have built that quality inherently.
And that was some great insights, Mohit, which, you know, many of our viewers will feel motivated. And the way how we prescribe the conversation, that you can also watch the podcast if you want to become a consultant, or you can also watch a podcast from an entrepreneur's view, right?
True.
So we discussed many verticals in there, but there's one segment which is most missing. Do not know who real Mohit is. So
Sure.
let's engrave with a fun segment of a rapid fire round,
Sure.
and let's kickstart it. So my first question is, a biggest business lesson you have ever heard or learned?
No, the simplest lesson that I've always heard and learned is paisa aana chahiye. That's it.
A book every entrepreneur must read.
I've never read a book in my life. Sorry. Never.
So do you listen to books,
No, I
audiobooks,
don't.
nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. One skill that every consultant should have?
To negotiate.
A misconception people have about consultancy?
It's not for everybody.
Okay. If Mohit was not in the business of consultancy, what else would it be?
Like, I don't know. And frankly, for the last 11 years, I've not thought of this. And I don't know, maybe I would be a tennis coach.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I'm meant for any other business.
Any internal hobby which you are having but it is not known publicly?
I love playing a game of tennis. I don't get to play it very often. Probably last I played was 2 years back.
And the last and final question, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely yes.
So, many of my guests are telling no, but you are the first one who told yes, right? So that's something memorable for me also.
I'll tell you why. If you know a pizza chain called Pizza Corner, which was there back at my school days during the 2000s, early 2000s.
Okay.
They had a pizza which had pineapple on their pizza, right?
Topping, yeah.
It was phenomenal. It was one of the best pizzas I've ever eaten. So I think, yeah, absolutely.
Sweet and crispy together can create something phenomenal taste.
Absolutely, yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on our show of Beyond the Noise. And how do you find the platform of Beyond the Noise podcasting you?
No, I think it's great, Dhruvish. It's always very, very exciting to meet young people. What you've done so far is commendable. And I'm sure a few years later, you'll tell me, Mohit, you were one of our early guests. So I think that's what we're looking forward to.
So it's a pleasure having you on our show, and I hope this podcast can be on a skyrocket way that many of our listeners gets motivated after listening to this.
For whatever little it's worth it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming on.